City sewers and septic systems. That's what we're talking about. My name is Sean Larson, real estate broker, providing you valuable real estate information that will help you selling or buying. Today we're going to talk a little about wastewater leaving a home. Now, there are usually two ways that's processed. The most popular system is going to be when the wastewater and solids leave the home, they simply go down a pipe and they connect to the city system, where it then travels to the municipality treatment center or a private center, and it is treated, and the homeowner usually doesn't have to worry too much after that point. The second system that is very common as well is what's called a septic system. Now, some people may have grown up on a septic system from decades ago, and they envision this backhoe sitting in their yard and digging up a tank and things like that. But let's just talk a little bit about how a septic system works. Virtually, a septic system is kind of a homeowner's mini system of what the city system was going to do for them. But the reason it's on site at the home is usually the proximity of the home. So a lot of people think septic systems are usually for properties further out, and in a lot of cases that is true. But it can also be on a system or a home that is closer in to the city as well. Because if you think about it, cities grow outward. So those homes that have septic, they may have once been further out, but the city grew out to them. So they may still be on septic, and when that happens, a lot of times they have opportunities, sometimes forced opportunities, to connect to the city system as the city grows outward. But let's assume that the home is still on a septic system. What it does is it is going to process everything much like the city system would, except the solids and wastewater never leave the property. So the wastewater would leave the home, go into a tank that is buried underground. In the tank, bacteria takes over and breaks everything down. The wastewater then is pumped out into a series of lines that are just below the surface, maybe about 1 to 2 feet under the surface. And the water is then pumped out and goes out into the soil on that lot instead of being pumped to the city system. Every once in a while, you can kind of view over a lot, and you can even see lines just where the grass is greener because there's additional water there is being fed. Now, where this comes into play, if you are shopping for a home, is that you might want to go out and you think maybe we want 1 acre or 2 acres of property, which is great, as long as you can use it for the purpose that you're intending. Because let's back up to those lines being in the ground. Okay, when those lines are installed in the ground, they inspect that soil to make sure that soil is the right consistency where it will absorb that water being pumped into it. And that is what they call a perk test. And so if you go out to raw land and you want to build a home there and you are going to have a septic system, there are soil tests done to ensure that your soil will absorb the water that you are about to pump into it. So if a septic system's already in place and that's already going, let's say you go out and you look at that home and you see that big yard and you think, I'm going to go plant a garden there. I'm going to build a barn there. We might even put in a pool. Okay, that property is starting to be consumed pretty quickly. And here's why. You can't go dig where those lines are underground. You cannot disturb that area. In some areas, you are required to have a second space on the property as a backup system. There are no lines in it. It is just sitting over there kind of reserved in case something happens to the first system and your soil no longer wants to absorb the water. You would then go over and install new lines in the backup area. So it is possible where you may go out and look at a piece of property and it might be 1 or 2 acres or something like that. And you think, wow, that's plenty of space to do everything we want. Except for the fact, if you subtract those places plus their setbacks, so there may be a setback around it that you can't enter as well. Once you subtract those areas out, you might not have as much space left as you think. So if you're considering a lot that is maybe about 1 acre or 2, and it's on septic and you have those sort of plans where you want to do a pool, a barn, a garden, and things like that, plan very carefully before you make that purchase to make sure that land can be used how you want. And it is not limited to lots that are 1 or 2 acres as well. You can have a 10, 20 acre parcel, and if it's maybe full of the wrong type of soil or full of rock, it could be that that land will not perk and that means it will not qualify for a septic system there. Now, there are some exceptions. There are some alternatives. There are some mini type systems that you would replicate kind of what the city does, and you would process your sewage and your wastewater that way. Those are less common than septic, but there are new systems coming out. Occasionally you'll find where somebody might have an easement onto somebody else's property where their sewer system or their leach field where the lines are is actually on somebody else's property who does have suitable soil for that. Those by far are kind of the exception to the rule. I don't think you're going to find those much. So what I really just want to emphasize to you is if you do go the septic route, and again, septic systems are fine. I know some people have flashbacks to the good old days, but they work very well. But if you do go shopping and you start seeing that, my point to you is make sure the property size accommodates your preferences on what you would like to do, because those fields and components can consume an acre really, really quickly. So that is just a little bit about the difference between the city connection and septic fields. It's a fairly in-depth conversation on that, so that's just kind of to get you started. If you have any additional questions about anything real estate related, I am more than happy to help out. My name again is Sean Larson. I'm a real estate broker. I hope you have a super day.